Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Still letting people in here, so give us a couple of minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And if possible, if in your name, you could also put what chapter you're with. That can be helpful. If you don't know how to do that, you can also put it in the chat and I can update your name to have your chapter with you.
And nice to see so many people on camera. If you're not, we get it. But if you would like to join us on camera, we welcome that as well. Nice to see you all today. I see some new-ish faces, which is awesome, and some of our tried and true folks. So thank you for joining. This is our president and president-elect sharing session. It is recorded, but it's an opportunity for you all to talk with each other, talk with us about what's going on, questions you have, how we can help and learn from each other. So I am glad you're taking that opportunity. I did get quite a few people saying that they were out of town or had something else going on today. So that's to be expected in the summer, but we'll have a good conversation, I am sure. So I have one topic that came through and I have a couple other ones in my back pocket, unless you guys have something else you want to talk about. But questions about management companies for CEDs versus an employee. So just by a show of hands, who has an employee of the chapter as their executive director? Okay, 3, 4, 5 of you. Okay, 6 maybe. Anybody have a management company? It's like an association management company, a community association, but it's for nonprofits. Anybody? I don't know that anybody on this call does. And then Ashley, who I see there, not see your name. She is. It's not Ashley. Is it Ashley?
Yeah, it's me. It's
me.
me.
Okay. You just flashed real quick, so I was like, maybe it's not Ashley. Who is our newest chapter, the Louisiana chapter. So they just are all volunteer driven at this point. So pros and cons. So I'm going to talk a little bit, and I'm actually going to ask Kelly to jump in because Kelly has worked for a management company. So I'll share my perspective and I'll let Kelly share her perspective after that to give you a minute to think about it. So I don't know, I think most of our chapters have either direct employees or independent contractors, so working just for the chapter. The benefit to that is you have someone dedicated to you. They report to you. If it's an independent contractor arrangement, there are some regulations there, but they're working only for you, which could have pros and cons. You then also have the hiring and firing of that person as well. With a management company, like community management, they may have a portfolio where they are managing multiple clients and so are dedicated to you for a certain amount of time or for certain things, like maybe it's meeting planning or accounting, or your magazine or social media or whatever it may be. And maybe it's all of those things, but they work for the management company. So you may or may not be able to choose who your person is that's dedicated to your account. The benefits there are that they typically have a lot of back-end people. So they have accountants or bookkeepers to help with your accounting. They have graphic designers to help with that. So you can get all of those different components, because when you're hiring just one employee, which many of our chapters have, they can't be good at everything because none of us are. So they may have a strong skill set in event planning, but not know anything about marketing. So, so that's kind of how I see it. Kelly, I'd love to hear you chime in.
Yeah, I think there's, pros and cons to both situations. From the management company perspective, I know one of the challenges is that usually there's multiple clients, right? So that person's not dedicated to only you. The good thing is they do have usually expertise. Like Crystal was saying, they might be an expert in event planning and they might potentially be planning, 50 meetings a year through all of their clients, for example. One of the issues with that, though, is sometimes with that, you don't have the control over dates or when things are taking place, because if it's in conflict directly with another client, or if they're traveling, again, sometimes that can be a situation with it. And like Crystal said, you don't have the direct control over who is working for the chapter. I think that's the other big negative piece to it. But on the flip side, again, usually they have a lot more resources or a lot more buying power even to get things completed. For example, an accounting system, they might have it in place and they own the license to it. And so you guys get that discount because they're using it over multiple clients versus just one with the chapter. So sometimes buying power is a little bit better from that. But I will say, on the flip side, being a part of the national, or being a part with national, again, some of those resources or multiple chapters using the same systems, we are able to get some of those discounts. So I think you guys have a very unique situation with the chapters kind of working together, talking together, and having that relationship to have that bigger picture and sometimes that bigger buying power as well. But I think those are the biggest, kind of pros and cons of that management company versus either that contractor or direct employee that's working directly with you guys. And so again, I think it's whatever's best for whatever the situation is, especially using a management company and again, this is a nonprofit management company, right? It's not the management companies that some of you are probably employed by, but using them if you don't need a full-time staff. And you don't have to then worry about insurance and things like that. That's taken care of directly through the management company, and you have that list of services that they're providing for that contract. You're on mute, Crystal.
Thank you. The other thing that I would keep in mind too is, depending on the state you're in, some of the states have differing requirements for independent contractors and employees. So if you are looking to hire, I would definitely talk to an attorney in your state, and preferably a nonprofit attorney, not necessarily a community association attorney. Lexi, to your question about management companies that are managing multiple CAI chapters, at this time, I can only think of one on the East Coast that has 2 CAI clients. But beyond that, I don't think so.
I know that there's a couple that have independent contractors, not a management company that is doing that. But so there are a couple of our smaller chapters that didn't need a full-time CED. And so they have the same CED for multiple chapters, but that's an independent contractor situation.
Okay. Along with that, so we have at least 2 that I know of well, actually 3 CDs that I know of this year that have retired or are retiring. And it was asked if you do anything for your CEDs as they're leaving the chapter. Does anybody have any experience with that or thoughts on what you would do for that person? Kristen?
We haven't had a CED retire, fortunately, in the past few years, but we've had multiple staff turnovers in the last 3 weeks. And we've just kind of, as a board, given them a present based on their tenure is what we did. And they were very instrumental, but frankly, they only gave 2 weeks notice, so we didn't really have time to plan a party and get something going, but that's just what we did as a board.
Okay, so some kind of token of appreciation based on how long they'd been with the chapter. Got it. I think tenure definitely has something to do with it, in my opinion. Some of the CEDs that are retiring have been with CAI 10 plus years. So that's a little more significant than somebody who's just been there for a couple of years, for sure.
And the staff, we did authorize staff to go out and have like a going
Little
away party
lunch
type thing, lunch.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. And Alexi, 25 plus years for Joan in California. So definitely a little more than a small token, I would say, Lexi, but we'll chat a little bit more offline with some thoughts that I have. Okay, any other staffing related questions anybody wants to talk about? Okay. Other things that you came today to ask or ask of us or of each other, or things you want to share? You guys are quiet. Kristen.
So one thing that as a board we've been monitoring is the current uptick in COVID, and there are a lot of people that have in our chapter that have been coming down with it incidentally, just from conversations. So I didn't know if any other chapters were discussing, maybe we'd gone back to mostly in person. And so I didn't know if anybody else was having conversations about what to do now, because I think everybody kind of thought through the summer we'd be safe. And frankly, we all figured in the winter we'd go back to virtual, but now it's just kind of rearing its ugly head again. So I didn't know if anybody else was having conversations about it.
That's a great question. Anybody want to comment on that? Lexi.
We're in the process now of budgeting for 2023. And what was really interesting to me is, given what you just said, I assumed that we would sort of continue the status quo of a hybrid virtual and in-person events. But the finance committee and programs committee for our chapter said, no more virtual events. It's time to be completely back in person. So with that, they're looking for venues who, here in LA, a lot of places still require proof of vaccine. So venues that require proof of vaccine, and trying to do more outdoor versus indoor conference center types of events. I think, unfortunately, COVID's not going away. So we're just adjusting based on the financial needs of the chapter, the wishes of our membership who want to be together, and then balancing that all as safely as we possibly can while still holding these events.
Lexi, are you also looking at potentially larger venue spaces? Is that on the table as well? Like, so you can spread out a little bit?
Well, we're already in huge ballrooms, so
okay.
we're kind of maxed out, but that's why we're looking at not inside, but actual outdoor
Gotcha.
terraces at these venues.
It's interesting your finance committee came back and said that, because we're working on the budget, and frankly, I'm the leader of the finance committee. And we've actually launched an on-demand virtual library because nobody wants to come back in person for training.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our classes are now recorded, and as of July 1st, it's up and running. In case anybody needs it, Crystal, there's some PCAM points out there in our virtual on-demand library. So we're still working. It's kind of like a soft open right now. We're still working through some of the glitches, but basically we pulled our membership and nobody wants to come in due to traffic and a myriad of other reasons for classes. So we're just hosting them via virtual for now. And then happy hours and things like that are, outside, but that's where we are. I was just curious. So it's interesting you say that your finance committee is saying go back, because the cost of holding around here, and I would assume LA is similar. I'm in DC market. The cost of hosting something and then nobody showing up got a little scary. So,
Kristen, I think you did the great thing of you surveyed your members, right? You surveyed to find out what they wanted, and you went in that direction versus just making assumptions. So I think that that's great too, because then you get that feedback, you've got what people want, and you're giving them that in that format as well. So great job with that. Chuck, I see you came off mute.
Do it now?
I said I saw you came off mute, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to say anything.
Oh no, I'm it's interesting listening to the different areas, but right now in Georgia and in Tennessee, people are ready to be back together in both areas. And so we've had some good events. We are in areas typically that we have larger spaces. We have done some outdoor events, like has been mentioned. And that's how we slowly got back into it. The initial events that we had were outdoors. We had tents, we had it catered, we had a little outdoor band in a little downtown area, and it worked out very well. But people are ready to be back together, and that'll be interesting to see 30 days from now, because things are changing rapidly. So we'll see.
Absolutely. We have had a few chapters, and I don't see Minnesota or Michigan on here, but one of them did something at like their fairgrounds during the off time. Summer, obviously, I think the fairgrounds are probably in use, but like in the
coming up in the fall. They did one in
fall.
May, and then they have one coming up in August as well.
And then another did like in a historic part of downtown. They kind of rented it out, I guess. Is that right, Kelly?
Yeah.
And had like trade show booths outside. So there's some creative things out there. If you want to go that route, I would assume like room rental charges aren't that are different, obviously, when you're talking outdoor venues, but that's a possibility for some parts of the country. Obviously, in like South Florida, it would be way too hot probably to do something outside, or Nevada.
Or in the Midwest when it gets cold, right? So when
Right,
you
exactly.
start to get into that, and I know the one that Minnesota did was a driving event. So they had it set up that they stayed in the cars. So if you wanted to be with those people or, by yourself, that was fine. And then they kind of had like runners that brought, little things to your car, and you could have conversation. So it was just a little bit different of what we're used to out of the box. But I definitely think there's lots of options out there if your people want to get together, but kind of do things separated at the same time.
Okay. Other topic related to the budget, and I would love to hear from chapters that already do this, is the Board of Trustees put a requirement in our recertification to do a chapter audit if you have over $100,000 a year. I know some chapters it's a little scary being the first time for some of you. We're working on some resources for the staff primarily of how to prepare for your first audit. We are talking to our auditor, which happens to be new to CAI, for some potentially some partners that they have throughout the country that we can hopefully connect the chapters with. So we're hoping that's coming down the pike fairly quickly. But are there any chapters on here that do an audit that want to speak to the process, or why you're glad you do it, or anything like that? Anybody have questions about it? You're all ready to do an audit?
We've done an audit for eternity.
Ever.
So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer, but
and it is a requirement every 3 years. Like I know Washington Metro does it every year, but it is every 3 years. So part of that was so that the chapter could plan accordingly for that. So, but yeah, Kristen, I know Washington Metro has done it for forever. Anybody else have questions about that? Just making sure we get that out there, because it should be in your budget for 2023 to do for the 2022 calendar year.
I would say, just as a heads up for people that have never done it, the hardest part for us, and we're a little weird because we have 3 LACs, is the LAC dues and funds, because we have Maryland, Virginia, and DC LACs all under our umbrella. So that is always a little bit of a hiccup with the audit, I would say, just getting all of that straight. But otherwise,
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. So in states that have multiple chapters, one chapter is assigned to have the LAC under their tax filing. So if you don't know what we're talking about, you're probably not that chapter. But if you are, we have been talking to our accounting team about that to give some additional guidance there, given the audit requirements. So we'll have some more for that coming in the near future as well.
It's really not that scary, guys. It sounds scary, but it's really not that scary. Trust me.
Thank you for saying that, Kristen. Okay, and Kristen, with your financial brain, I might lean on you a little bit as we get a little closer for some of these chapters.
Sure, of course, I'm happy to help. And
Appreciate
Jamie,
that.
you know, for those of you, our CED, Jamie Barnhart, if you want your CEDs to reach out to Jamie about the LACs, and I know she's done extensive work about it as well, and she'd be happy. I'm going to volunteer her since she volunteers me for everything. I'm going to volunteer her that if you guys need anything, to please reach out.
Just by a show of hands, do any of you know? Do you know that this is going to be your first audit? Really, Lexi? Okay, in Nevada. Okay, Western New York. Okay, all right, and Gold Coast. Okay, well, we're going to help you. We're going to help you out. We're going to do our best to help you through that process. And I'm certain it's not going to be as bad as some of us are thinking it may be. So, as Kristen said. All right.
If you haven't hired your auditor yet, since we switched audit firms a few years ago, just for sake of switching, I would make sure that your audit firm has association auditing as part of their repertoire, because it is a little different.
Nonprofit association, not necessarily community management,
right?
Nonprofit association experience.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. No, thank you for bringing that up.
That would be my helpful hint.
Good tips, Kristen. Thank you. Okay. Any other topics that anybody wanted to bring up today?
While people are quiet, I just also have a reminder, since we were talking about the LACs, it made me think of this. Any LAC nominations will be due soon. So if you haven't been discussing them or anything at the board level, please make sure that you do that. Your CED should have received an email from our advocacy team with that information. So just that reminder, I believe that's September they're due, or the end of August.
Sometime in September, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. So just again, for one of your upcoming board meetings, to make sure that's on the docket so you can get those approved for that.
And just a high level of that, so you can be thinking about it, the board should be approving who those delegates are. The LAC can add additional people beyond that, but the basic rule of thumb is if you are a chapter that is a single chapter state. I'm looking at Rich in Nevada. Nevada only has one chapter. They have 6 delegates to appoint, and then the LAC can add additional people. Lexi in California is one of 8 chapters. They each get 2 delegates to appoint, and the LAC can add additional people should they choose. So their LAC is a little bigger just by nature of the size of the state and the number of chapters. But that this year also is coming due for the term limits for LAC delegates. So people that have been on the LAC for 10 years or more need to step away for a year. We had a conversation with the CEDs about this recently, and how some of them are handling that is, one, as an opportunity to bring in some newer people, but not wanting to lose some of the very impactful people, is using them to be on committees for various things, but not be the actual delegates. So if there's people you want to hang on to, you might want to think about that. And then there might be some that it's time for them to do other things. So, Ronald.
Crystal, it's just 1 year off?
It's just 1 year off, correct.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be one of those.
Yeah.
I think I've been on, I can't even tell you how long. Could be, might be 15 years.
Well, Lula, who works in the advocacy department, she's the one who sends out that stuff, and I'm sure she'd be happy to give you that information.
I've already heard about it. So.
Oh, okay, good. So you're prepared. You're prepared to step
I'm
back.
definitely prepared, yes.
Okay, good. The other thing too that I wanted to bring up is I believe tomorrow we'll be sending out an email about our CED retreat, Chapter Executive Director Retreat. This is an event we've been having for 12 plus years at our headquarters office exclusively for executive directors. They talk about best practices. We have some education sessions. We focus a lot on operational type things. They have an opportunity to meet the staff that they might not meet otherwise. So it's a really good opportunity. It's free for the executive directors to attend. The cost is your travel and your hotel. And we do have a couple of scholarships available that give a stipend to some CEDs. So we encourage you to, if your budget allows, to send that person. And if it doesn't allow it, apply for the scholarship because we'd love to have everybody here. It's definitely something a lot of our CEDs look forward to every year as an opportunity to connect and brainstorm together and share ideas. So. Okay, one other topic that I have while you're thinking of your other burning questions, not so burning questions since you haven't brought them up yet, is Community Conversations Live. Have any of you participated in Community Conversations Live? Okay, so this is a new program that we developed about 1.5 years or so ago during COVID as an opportunity to partner with chapters on education since everything was virtual. And it's really turned into something that I've really enjoyed. And I think a lot of our members look forward to as well. So what it is, it's a webinar that we do quarterly on a contemporary topic. So we don't plan out the topics far in advance. We really only pick them about 6 weeks in advance so that it can be the most up to date it can be. We generally have 3 panelists. We try to get somebody from each member type, so a homeowner, a manager, and a business partner to share their perspective on things. So we had one yesterday on dealing with inflation. And these sessions are free. And then we have an opportunity, that's for the first about 40-45 minutes. And then we have an opportunity for another 30 minutes approximately for chapters or regions to have breakout sessions. And why I'm sharing this with you is we've had some really good participation, and then we've had other chapters that haven't participated at all. So it's an opportunity for you. Lexi is now in the middle of my screen, so I'm going to use California, where perhaps if LA wanted, maybe there's something very specific to LA, they could have their own room and talk about something regarding inflation that is affecting in LA. Maybe it's water regulations or something like that. Or it could be the entire state of California, or it might, sometimes we'll just, because if we don't have chapters doing it on the West Coast, we may take the whole West Coast and put them in a room. But it is an opportunity for additional education, free for members, nominal fee for non-members of $25 or $29, something of that sort. So just wanted to make you all aware, because we've talked to the executive directors a lot about it, but we haven't talked to you all specifically. So just an opportunity, you're not required to do it, but if you're interested in doing that, talk to your executive director. The next one will be in October?
October 12th, yes.
Yep. So any questions about that?
Will you send us
some information?
Yeah, exactly. Just so we can put it on our calendar and start promoting it in our chapters.
Yeah. Do we, that's a really good point. I think I only share that with executive directors. So maybe we can start putting it in the weekly email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've got tons of stuff that we give to the executive directors of digital advertisement, or if you guys do any printed pieces, things that you can print out for your in-person events and things like that. And just to piggyback off of what Crystal was saying, a couple of chapters have even monetized this or given this as a way, as an additional benefit to their top level sponsors, where they'll use one of their employees as that facilitator for the breakout room, or they'll give them acknowledgement in that breakout room or show a little video. Again, it's just within that breakout room, but it's still getting them, that recognition and everything like that. So a couple of chapters, again, have been kind of successful in that. So if you're looking at another way to give additional benefits to any of your sponsors or another sponsorship opportunity, I think this is a great one. That's an easy lift for you guys, since you don't really have to do much except promote it a little bit, and we're also promoting it on that national level as well. So
Yeah, really, and I didn't add one other thing there, Kelly, was that really the only requirement of the chapter is to have a facilitator for that room. So that could be some chapters use their president. If it was about inflation, maybe they use somebody who has a financial background, you know, something like that. But that is really truly the only requirement. What Kelly's talking about is additional, which is awesome that some chapters do that. Okay. Any other comments or questions for today? Is it just hot where everybody is? I know it's hot in Nevada. I was just there and it was the hottest day in a year. So, okay. Ronald, did I see your hand?
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat. It is. It's like an oven.
No, I was just
Versus
gonna
the
say, it's
soup here.
kind of, it's not much, it's maybe 70, 75. It's a
Oh,
little
that's
cold. Actually, it's
beautiful.
cold.
That's beautiful. I would love that. I would love that. So really can't complain here in DC, I don't feel like,
No,
especially compared to Nevada.
no.
Yeah, but we have
Okay.
the humidity, Crystal. We have the
I
humidity.
know, we do. That's what I always say when I go to like Arizona or Nevada, places like that. It's like walking into an oven. And here on the East Coast, when you get off the airplane, it feels like you're like diving into a bowl of soup. It's just that like, you know, wet, heavy feeling. So
Anything over 100 degrees, you don't go out too much.
right. Yes. I didn't get to enjoy the pool there in Nevada because it was way too hot to even do that. So, all right.
Oh,
I can't imagine 100 degrees.
No, you can't up by you.
I can't.
I'm headed up that way, Ronald, in a few weeks for our family in Rochester. So I'm hoping it'll be a nice change of weather.
It will be. Rochester is very nice also, as you probably know.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
I don't know if I shared it with you, Crystal.
Yes, Rich.
When we went to, we took a ride to Death Valley one summer.
During the summer?
Yeah, because they have Furnace Creek, which is where the hottest temperature was ever recorded at 134 degrees. So we wanted to go out and just go and get a picture in front of the thermometer, right? And when
Okay.
we got out there, it was 131 degrees.
My goodness. That is crazy.
And
So
I
it was
got a
just one of
picture
those
it.
things that a photo op that you needed to do.
Yeah, we
how
drove
far
in
is
2
that from?
hours, about
Oh,
2
it's
hours.
2 hours from Vegas.
So we
Okay.
drove, took a picture, got back in the car, and came home.
Okay. All right.
But that's hot.
That's hot. That's really hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Lexi's got a boat. Well, whew, that sounds nice to be on the water. All right. Any other CAI related topics? Okay. Well, then I'll give you a few more minutes back into your day. Thank you all for coming today. If your president or president-elect is not on here, we encourage them to join in the future and enjoy the summer months. Okay, we'll talk to you next month. Thank you.